ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Thank you for coming today. And we continue our discussion on the topic of the interaction between karma and bhakti. So we'll take some questions today, and then after that, we'll move towards the discussion on the remaining characteristics, depending on how the questions go. So, the first two set of questions were about Vaishnava Aparad and Vaishnava blessings. How do they affect our karma? Say, if we commit some offense, even if it is unintentional, say, then is it that adds to our karma? Does that cause suffering? So, first thing to understand, like I said, is that Krishna is on our side. Krishna is a loving God. Krishna as God is merciful. He is not vengeful. Vengeful means it's like a revengeful. He's not a person, you did this, so you have to punish you for this. And you did this, and I'm going to punish you for this. So Krishna is a merciful God. He's not a vengeful God. And that includes even when we are dealing with devotees. Krishna cares for everyone. And we could say that if, say, Krishna is at the center, then there are different circles of love around him. Say, for example, in the innermost circle of love, maybe the gopis of Vrindavan. They are the topmost devotees. But then every single soul is loved by Krishna. These circles can keep extending till it includes not just all of us, but even people who are in hell. In some traditions, the idea is that if you don't believe in God, God will punish you and send you to hell forever. In the Vedic tradition, the idea is not that God sends us to hell. Actually, God goes with us to hell. That even when somebody goes to hell, Krishna is the Paramatma is there in the heart, wherever we go. So what sends somebody to hell is their own karma. So the point is, Krishna's love is unfailing. And when we start practicing bhakti, it shouldn't lead to us living in constant fear. Oh, what if I offend this devotee? What if I offend that devotee? The important thing is that normally when there is love, see, where there is love, is there fear? No. Actually, there is fear. But the fear is not so much of being punished, as it is of displeasing the other person. You know. So, in the case of law, if I break the law, then the police may, if I go above the speed limit, hmm, then the police may catch me, the police may fine me, the police may arrest me, police may take away my license. So that fear is there. So there is a fear of being punished. And especially if we think that person doesn't care for us, then there may be great fear of punishment. Now, when there is love, when we love and respect someone, and when that person loves and respects us, like loves and cares for us, then there is fear, but the fear is of a different dynamic. It is, I don't want to hurt this person. I don't want to displease this person. I don't want to disappoint this person. It is not so much what this person will do to me if I do something wrong, as it is what this person will feel if I do something wrong. Now, yes, they may punish us, they may do some disciplinary action, but when there is love, there is careful consideration of actions, not so much because of the fear of the punishment, it is more because of the fear of displeasing the other person. So, the impetus is very different. When there are two people, say there's an authority figure. So one fear is, what will they do to me? Hmm? If I do this, what will they do to me? On the other hand, the other fear, so here there is, when there is no love. Hmm? But when there is love, hmm, it is how this will affect them. Hmm? That they will feel hurt, they will feel disappointed. And this is a very different dynamic. So for us, the fear is also meant to be healthy. In this case, not wanting to hurt someone whom we care for and who cares for us is meant to inspire us to not do the hurtful activity. So, for us, we need to see the whole point of Vaishnava Aparadha as something wherein, out of love for Krishna and out of love for those who love Krishna and those whom Krishna loves, we become more careful about our actions. So there are some extreme situations, so wherein somebody commits some severe offense, and then that person may get some disease, or that person may get some severe karmic reaction. Those are described in the Vedic tradition, in the not the Vedic tradition, so in the Bhakti tradition. But those are generally meant to illustrate a particular point. They are not the normal way Krishna operates. Generally, whenever scripture, when it teaches quite often through extremes. What do I mean by extremes? That one of my friends is a novel writer, is a published novel writer, and he says that he often takes inspiration by observing the lives of people around him, and they can get some ideas for the characters that he wants to write about. But generally, no one person's life is usually interesting enough to make an interesting character. So most interesting characters are a composite of 3, 4 different people, and the most interesting parts of their lives are taken. So similarly, so why is that? The normal life is not very interesting. So say if we decided to do a 24-hour recording of everything that we did during the day, and the next day we sit down and watch that for 24 hours that recording, within 10 minutes we'll get bored, isn't it? We want to watch some parts, but 24 hours, who will want to watch that? Even if it's our own life and our own activity. So the thing is that generally, whenever something is to be made memorable, ordinary events are not memorable. It's extraordinary. It is the extreme that is memorable. So that's why if you scripture teaches, we can see negative extremes, positive extremes. So a negative extreme could be, say, Bharat Maharaj. One small mistake, wherein what happens? He gets attached to a deer, and then he has to take an entire next life for that. But on the other hand, if we look at Ajami, just one chanting of the holy name of the Lord, and that too incidentally, indirectly, when he was chanting, addressing his son, still he is delivered. So the point is, scriptures give extreme examples. And the purpose of extreme examples is not to standardize the extreme. It is not to say that this is what always happens. It is to emphasize the standard. Now, what do I mean by this difference? Emphasize the standard. Say, consider the once the holy name of the Lord and His delivered. Now,
And once I was giving a class, once I was giving once I was giving a class, there's quite a lot of noise in the background. And one gentleman was sitting right in front, and he was hearing very attentively. And that's what I. And then, as the class came, and he was still getting very attentive. Then I asked him what it was. He said, I was hearing the noise. I was counting. So noise is not just noise, noise also has information. So sometimes we can have attention toward the voice, and sometimes we can have attention toward the noise. So let's move on. So generally, there is the result will be mostly increase in taste. It will not be so much an increase in karma. That's very rare. Negative karma increase. It happens, it's extremely rare. It's a very extreme situation that we have. But generally, the taste that we get in chanting the holy name and doing the of the Lord, participating in kirtans, doing seva, that taste decreases. So the key point is different. Now, the next thing is that with respect to blessings. So if devotees pray for us, devotees bless us, what happens when? Well, in general prayers, the relationship between prayers and karma is again complex because the prayers are part of the we can say as a part of our bhakti, we will pray. As a part of our bhakti, we may out of humility request others to pray. Sometimes as a part of our bhakti, we may pray for others. So, but broadly, prayers are for bhakti. And how does karma get affected? Yesterday I talked about those two things that there is the karma can refer to the past actions and the present actions. So how exactly prayers will affect? Prayers will definitely affect, but Krishna can decrease the past karma, or Krishna can empower us in the present. Empower us in intentions, empower us with purification. So essentially, We don't have to put prayer in another category. Prayers can enhance the effect of. So, in general, when we pray to Krishna, praying, praying itself is well, activity is very common in karma or those in karma kanda and in bhakti. The vision of praying is very different. The vision in karma kanda is to change things for not, this very good harvest. We are just feel about that technology. We often have specific desires to pray for. And that's not a bad thing. It's also good. Even in some other way in which. But if you see in Bhakti, when there are prayers, many prayers don't need to contain minutes. We consider the Lord in action, in that prayer, there is no request. It's not just one part of prayer. But even if you look at the bigger concept of prayer in the book, it's hardly a request. It is basically a glorification. So the idea in Bhakti, it is to change us for absorption. That is the focus in Bhakti. And you consider the uses for prayers. There is not so much use of prayer. Issues of the Sama. Now, at the end, there is some version period. But the issues of the Sama itself is just a. So, the idea is in Bhakti, when you offer prayers, it is more so that we become fixed in whatever we want. We are not saying, I do not worship you, so that all the things that are causing me hurt, you stop praying, so that by praying, our mind becomes solution. The mind becomes solution. That itself. So, in that sense, vision of prayers is very important. Not mean that we pray Krishna for a particular thing will eventually solve a problem and suddenly we become karma. No. Sometimes some urgent thing may be needed, some emergency may be there. And at that time we pray. It is not considered outside the routine. It is Anya Vinashita. It is not Anya Abhidasha. Sometimes the devotee will have some respect. When the devotee is in danger, she prays. Is that a material prayer? You can say it comes from our deep situation, great danger. But then it is Dharma. But she's praying and Krishna is focused. So, in that sense, you don't have to worry much. We focus on praying and not that with the connectors with Krishna. That itself is. And what Krishna is doing, that enough. That's why it's something that will come later, but it's important point. But faith has a combination of certainty and uncertainty. What do I mean? Most people think faith is uncertain. I'm sure that yes, that the devotee, when the devotee has faith in Krishna, the certainty is Krishna will protect. So, in that principle, the devotee has faith. But the uncertainty is when and how. It is related to timings and means. when Prabhupada is going from at that time he says, I have vision. I can see temples filled with devotees. When he's saying that, it shows his confidence in spirit. But even how much time is it? Isn't it? So when you are going to America at that time, on the Jeremiah composed the song, and he said that Om Rupa Vidi Krishna Adumi Rati Inapiyani Koro Rati Krishna will very much get about and know what is going on. But then he says, Ache Kitu Kaje Tare Eni Adumane Najike Eni Utres. I feel, I guess, you must have some purpose for me. Otherwise, why would you think I would be living the ceremonies? So here Prabhupada is using the word Anu. Anu, yes. No, it is not that Prabhupada has some secret formula. Just inside the heart. This was not in the communication. This was in the recording system. No. Prabhupada was using the text, in the person. So, even also happens there is the dimension of Krishna's life. That's what I think. How exactly brain work, we will not know. But brain definitely the auspicious. Devotees prayers for us will bring even more auspicious. That is within the matter. Going back to the point of offense, if some senior devotee is very intolerant or somebody commits mistakes and they take offense, when offense is not intended, then maybe they have to suffer because of that. So we try as much as possible to please devotees. But sometimes they take offense. We try to be as polite as we can. But we continue to have to be sometimes it's for people may not understand this. But Krishna would understand. And if you are trying to understand Krishna will be there about this. So will our past karma dilute our feeling bhakti? Can your past karma divert us from bhakti? It is an ancient theory around here that bhakti cleanses our completely. Now, the relationship between say karma, how does karma lead to bhakti? That is again a complex question. One way of looking at this is these two are there is different ways of looking at this. In the traditional Vedic progression, there is the idea of Varna, and the Shudra in this life will become a Vaishya, and the Vaishya will become Brahmana. Sorry, Vaishya will become Kshatriya, Kshatriya will become Brahmana. Then Brahmana will become Sannyas. That person will become great moksha. And this way, each of these will take one life. So the idea is progression may take many lives. That is the idea of tradition in the Vedic conception. But in Bhakti, there will be a Brahmin and above all is so anybody from anywhere can take up It is not that the Shudra has to become a Vaishya, Kshatriya, or Brahmana. You don't have
to come up like this. So that's a Mamhi Partha Vyapashitya Yepi Syupapayonaya. Anybody from anywhere can take up bhakti. And not just take up bhakti, Tepi Yanti Param Gatim. They can attain the supreme destination. So, in that sense, our past karma does not interfere with our present capacity to practice bhakti. So, in this sense, you can say they are completely unrelated. But another way of looking at it is that somebody who has past positive karma, they are more likely to be exposed to bhakti. That means somebody who has, say, been born in a, if not a Brahmanical family, but a pious family, they are more likely to go to a temple, they are more likely to respect sadhus, they are more likely to hear Shastra. And in that sense, past karma can make one more favorable to the practice of bhakti. Favorable in the sense of they are more likely to get the opportunity. But it doesn't always work like that. Sometimes some people who have past positive karma may become proud of that. And because of that, they may think, I already know these things. Like many people say, Bhagwan ka naam 24 घंटे हृदय में चलते ही रहता है. I'm chanting 24 hours the name of Krishna. 24 घंटे हृदय में चलता है पर 1 मिनट जिह्वा पे क्यों नहीं आता है? Isn't it? It's why if something is constantly in the heart, how will it not manifest externally? So it's that can make one proud, and if it makes one proud, then that can be unfavorable also. Viprad Vishadagunayutada Arvinda Nabha Padarvinda Vimukhat Shwapacham Marishtam. Prahlad in his prayer says that a Brahmana might have all the wonderful qualities. Vishadagunayutada may have there are 12 traditional qualities which are said to glorify a Brahmana. They may have that, but if that person is averse to the Lord, thinks that I don't need the Lord, I am so pure already. And contrasted with that, even a low-born person, a Shwapacha, will be considered exalted. So, so in that sense, so this is with respect to taking up bhakti. Now, when we are practicing bhakti, can our past karma affect our faith? Well, it depends. Say, if we are going through our life and say this is the time when we start bhakti. So, during our life journey, so now we can say that we have certain karma which we are going to get. Some positive karma, some negative karma. So now after we start bhakti also, we might get some positive karma, we might get some negative karma. So when this comes, how does it affect our devotion? So this is where the primacy of free will comes in. Normally we might think that if somebody starts bhakti and then after starting bhakti, they say at that time get a positive karma. That means say if they have some family issue that gets resolved, they have some health issue that gets resolved, their faith in Krishna may increase. That is possible. But it's also possible that they may think, because I had this problem, so I was practicing bhakti. Now the problem is gone, so they don't need to practice bhakti now. Isn't it? So it's like distraction from bhakti can come because of adversity. Adversity is some problems coming in life. It can also come because of prosperity. Both can be distractions. And that's why, say, for us, for some people it may happen that they start practicing bhakti and they face some problems. And then that can make them go away from Krishna, but that can also make them think that, this problem is so difficult. If I had not been practicing bhakti, I would have been completely crushed by this. Thank God I have this practice of bhakti, by which at least I have some shelter, some strength. आए संकट तो हुआ साक्षात्कार, बिना भक्ति के कैसा करता इन्हें पार. That when we get dangers, we realize that without bhakti, I would have been crushed. So bhakti is a blessing. So similarly, for somebody when prosperity comes in their life, now they may think that, oh, now Krishna is, because I'm making good choices in my life, Krishna is making my life more comfortable so that I can make good choices more easily. Say if somebody has a lot of financial anxiety and they're practicing bhakti, the financial anxiety goes away. Then that person can think, okay, now that anxiety won't distract me so much, so I can practice bhakti more. So that can happen. And if it happens, it's very good. But it can happen the other way also. Now I don't have anxiety, why should I practice bhakti? So it's not that our past karma ever forces a present choice for us. Our past karma does not determine our present karma. Our past karma may create certain situations where we may make some choices, or where the opportunity to make some choices comes, the tendency to make that choice will be greater. But that does not mean that the past karma, so past karma in the sense of reaction. Now how much does the past karma determine our present karma? Present karma in terms of action. So now, if it were fully determining, so we could look at, if we consider, if we say fully, it fully determines, then basically what it means is we have no free will at all. Isn't it? So, we have done something bad in the past, and that's what we are meant to keep doing throughout our life, because that past karma is controlling us completely. Now, that is wrong. We all have free will. See, if we were just like some people say, we'll talk about astrology a little later. Some people say that's सब कुछ भगवान का खेल है. Yeah, you have seen this. You have seen this Gita sar. जो हुआ वो अच्छा हुआ, जो हो रहा है वो अच्छा हो रहा है, जो होने वाला है वो भी अच्छा ही होगा. ये अच्छा विचार है, पर ये भगवद गीता का विचार नहीं है. This is a nice thought. I have read the Gita many times. I have had friends who have read the Gita several hundred times. But none of us have ever been able to find any verse which says this. So, because the focus of the Gita is not on kya ho raha hai. The focus of the Gita is on kya kar rahe ho. It is not on what is happening, but on what we are doing. See, Arjuna's starting question itself is Pruchhami tvam dharma sammudha chetaha. Dharma is the right thing to do. He says, I am confused about what is the right thing to do, and you please guide me about what is the right thing to do. There is nowhere in the Gita which Krishna says that, that you have to fight against Bhishma, ya acha hi ho raha hai. Actually, in this world, bad things do happen. And to say that everything that happens is good is actually it can be very dehumanizing for people. When Sita is being abducted, Jatayu doesn't tell her, jo ho raha hai, acha ho raha hai. Oh, that would be horrendous, isn't it? So, actually, there's a difference between everything that happens is good and everything that happens is for good. Is good means intrinsically, automatically it is good. But is for good. So is good may not be true, because there are bad people and bad people do bad things. Sometimes even good people can do bad things. So bad things happen in this life. But is for good means what? Even when somebody does something bad, Krishna is expert enough to bring something good out of it. So the point I'm making over here is that for Krishna to bring out something good, we also have to make good choices, isn't it? So it's not that our past determines our present completely. So one extreme is to say that our past karma fully determines our present karma. The other is to say not at all. Now, this is unrealistic. Because say if somebody is extremely poor and they have so no money at all, and then the only way they get some food is by robbing. Now, is robbing wrong? Yes, it is wrong. But at the same time, when they do that, it is understandable. That can our past situation, our past karma, put us in situations when we do something wrong? Well, it can. But here there is a significant difference. I'll come to that. So the balance is partly. So what our past karma does is it pushes, but it not forces. What is the difference between pushing us to do certain actions and forcing us to do certain actions? Pushing means that certain actions may become easy. Say for example, somebody is very hungry and they rob some food. That may be necessary. But after that, they become a regular robber. And they rob not just food, they start robbing many other things. And they start killing people for robbing things. But that is not something which a past karma made them do. That is what they chose. There's a later question about Ajamil. So, how if Ajamil was also a devotee, how did he fall? Most of you know the story of Ajamil. So Ajamil was a Brahmana who had gone out to collect firewood for his father, and while he had gone out, he saw a woman, a prostitute, and a man hugging each other and doing other things. So he got agitated by that. So now, if we consider the situation carefully, Ajamil had not deliberately gone to some place where such things happen. So we could say his seeing that was unfortunate. And we can say maybe his seeing that sight was a result of some past negative karma. So by past karma, he chanced upon that sight. And that was terrible. And that whatever he saw that triggered such desires in his mind that he tried to control himself, he could not. Now, see, when somebody does something wrong, so what we are exploring over here is there is wrongdoing. That means the question I'm exploring is whether past karma leads to present karma. That is the question we are discussing. So whenever some wrongdoing happens, see, initially the wrongdoing can be circumstantial. That means somebody is put in a circumstance, and in that circumstance, they do that thing. So maybe he saw that, and that created such a desire within him that he just couldn't control the desire. Okay, it's possible. Maybe he felt, I have to be with her. Then he went with her, and he fulfilled his desire. Now we could say, okay, the mind getting agitated is one thing, but indulging in it is quite another thing. Okay, we can say the mind was so agitated that he did that. But it's one thing to go and do something one time. But eventually, what he decided was that I want to be with her constantly. So he abandoned his parents, He drove away his chaste wife. He gave up his Brahmanical duties. Because if somebody is living like this, who would want that person to be a Brahmana who performs priestly duties for them? So what happened was, then he had to start robbing and attacking people, stealing from them. So we could say the first sight or even the first fall, that was circumstantial. But rejecting parents, rejecting wife, rejecting job, rejecting society, you know, these cannot be said to be circumstantial. Even by circumstance, some desire comes. The desire stays for some time. It may be very, very strong, and we may succumb at that time. But afterwards, our the desire goes down, the intelligence comes back. So by this time, it is an intentional action. It is not a circumstantial action. So yes, circumstantially it can happen for a devotee that sometimes such difficulties come, that a devotee is just not able to practice bhakti. A devotee loses faith or gives up practice of bhakti. But once that situation subsides, the devotee will come back to Krishna. And if the devotee continues on, then that cannot be blamed on past karma. That is the present karma, that is the present choice. And that is why, so I'll conclude this particular answer with 2 points. First point is that if somebody who is a respectable person, somebody is a senior devotee, and they do something terrible, now that shouldn't lead us to immediately condemning them. Oh, you're a hypocrite. You talk and show such big things, and now just see what you have done. No, everybody goes through difficulties in life. And sometimes even the best of us can be tested. And when those tests come, even the worst can come even out of the best. Ideally, it should not, but it can happen. Now, for all of us, we may have experience that some person is very polite and nice and sweet, and sometimes they just snap and they yell. Now, that's very different from the way they behave. But we don't say, oh, all the sweetness and niceness, that was just a show. Rather, what we'll consider is, was something going on in their life because of which they snapped like that? We'll give them the benefit of the doubt. The benefit of the doubt. So, if there's like a occasional wrong, then what we need to do is, there's a benefit of the doubt. That, okay, I don't know what is going on. Maybe this person is going through some difficult situations, so let them do. And similarly for ourselves also, we don't have to be too hard on ourselves. But then the question comes as, how far? If somebody is repeatedly doing something wrong, so Ajamil's first mistake can be overlooked. But we all have certain boundaries in our life. See, and for all of us, say, say if we have anger, maybe our boundary is that, okay, I don't yell at anyone. But maybe we get a little angry, we yell. But then we use swear words. We start speaking foul words, start using galia. Then somebody raises their fists. Then somebody takes a knife. Then somebody takes a gun. Now, see, all of us, there are certain things which we will never do no matter how angry we become. Isn't it? We all have certain boundaries in our life. And every society, every culture brings certain boundaries. And if some boundaries are crossed, then that can be understandable. But like I said, here, A person rejecting their parents, rejecting their wife, rejecting their society, rejecting their job. This is something which is being knowingly done. It is these boundaries are meant to protect us. So the difference, when can we know that what is due to past karma and what is due to present karma? See, this is a whole big subject, but if something is being repeatedly done, and not only repeatedly done, it is increasingly done. That the person is doing the same thing and the person is becoming worse and worse at doing it. Then it is present karma. We cannot say it is because of past karma. So, now, what about, so Ajamil's actions, we always have free will. Just because somebody is a devotee does not mean Krishna takes away their free will. Krishna will give them facility to use the free will nicely. But they have to use that free will eventually. So it is described that Krishna did not forget Ajamil just because he had done so many wrong things. And that's how eventually a saint came to his house and the saint suggested that you should name your child Narayan. And named the child Narayan, and then when at his time of his death, he called out that child. So there was a plan even for him to be delivered. But it took a long time, caused a lot of trouble. So past karma it can temporarily divert us from bhakti, but it will not permanently drive us away from bhakti. So we can differentiate between fall down and fall away. The two are not the same thing. Fall down means we are following a particular standard and we are unable to follow that standard. But fall away means we give up the practice itself. So fall down may happen because of past karma. But falling away is due to present karma. The two are not the same. So fall down means, okay, you do that. We go to a particular place where no food is available and we have to eat some kind of food which normally we don't take when we are practicing bhakti. Now, what kind of food, that is also important. That may be a fall down. But falling away means even when they have food that is devotionally compatible available, still they keep eating other kinds of food. So that is something which is a conscious choice. So somebody might get a job in a particular place where they just don't have any vegetarian food available. What do you do at that time? When Prabhupada wanted devotees to go and preach in Soviet Russia, behind what they call as the Iron Curtain. So the devotee said, Prabhupada, there's practically no vegetarian food available. So Prabhupada said, eat meat but preach. Now the point of that is not that Prabhupada is recommending eat meat. Prabhupada is saying that if that is what required, we want everybody to be delivered. That a devotee going there, a devotee may eat meat occasionally. But there are people who are eating meat regularly and their future is very dark. If a devotee goes with a mood of compassion and helps those people over there, that is a glorious service. But that does not mean that devotees should regularly start eating meat. Obviously not. And that never happened. So, again, the point is that past karma can temporarily divert us, but not permanently. Now, this related with past karma, the question comes up is about astrology. So, through astrology or through Vastu, it is said that if some difficulties are there in our life, we can do certain practices by which those difficulties will go away. So yes, see, generally, whenever there is some material problem, now if there is a material problem, we need a material solution to that problem. Hmm? Say, for example, earlier, right now, the sound system was not working. Now, when the sound system was not working, I said, let's chant Hare Krishna. We all started chanting Hare Krishna. That is a spiritual activity. But is that the solution? Well, you can say it is the ultimate solution, but it is not the immediate solution, isn't it? If the sound system is not working, the sound system needs to be fixed. Hmm? So, there is spiritual consciousness that can help us to get the ultimate solution. And spiritual consciousness can also help us calm down so that we can find the immediate solution. But if there is a material problem, there's a material solution required. Hmm? So, yes, there are spiritual solutions in the sense that spiritual solution gives us the calmness and the clarity to find the right material solution. Say, if I'm feeling a lot of pain, and if I chant Hare Krishna, it is not, if there is some disease inside the body, chanting Hare Krishna may not remove the disease. But if I have got pain and I start thinking, I should feel a lot of pain, so I take a lot of painkillers. And somebody takes such a heavy dose of painkiller that becomes fatal for them. Now that's a terrible thing to do. So, okay, I'm having pain, I need some painkiller, but let me go to a doctor to find out what is causing so much pain. So, material problems do require material solutions. And like when I say material solutions, there are multiple levels. Yesterday, I was also revising. At first, we start from the drushta and then we move toward the adrushta. So, if we are facing problems in our life and we have tried the normal, reasonable ways for solving the problem and it is not getting solved. Say, suppose somebody has a disease and they're taking a medicine and they've tried taking various medicines and they're not working, then some people may explore. Maybe is there something astrologically I can find out what I need to do? Somebody may do this, do that. See, there is, if you see, how should you put it? There is the spiritual level of reality, then there is our present physical level of reality. But apart from that, there is also a subtle level of reality. Now, physical is material, subtle is also material. So, most of modern science focuses on the physical level of reality to find solutions. Oh, okay, if your blood pressure is very high, if your heartbeat is very high, okay, take some medication, put some chemicals in the body by which the heart will stop beating so fast. Now that is one way of solving the problem. But if that person has a lot of stress in their life, then just taking medication to slow the heartbeat is not going to help, isn't it? It is, okay, how do you deal with the stress? Maybe if you have too much work to do, share the workload with someone else, try to manage your lifestyle. That's also required. So that there is subtle domain is something which we understand from our common sense also. So within the subtle domain, there are many things. Now, when we talk about astrology, it is not that sometimes they say your Mangal is bad or Shani is bad, and that's why you're facing problems. So now it is not that Mangal or Shani is causing those problems. It is that Mangal or Shani being bad means that those astrological arrangements are indications that because of our past karma, right now we are going through a negative phase. So the planets are not causes. The planets are like signs. So, for example, if you are going on a road and on the road it said bumpy road ahead. Now that sign is not making the road bumpy, isn't it? That sign is telling us that the road is bumpy. So like that, astrology can sometimes give us some indications of what may be wrong. And then we may want to take the appropriate measures to fix it. But the problem with that is threefold. First is, astrology itself is complex. It is not a very precise way of looking at things. It's more interpretive than predictive. Like if we consider weather forecast, see, as a horoscope is basically meant to be like a weather forecast. But the factors are actually far more complicated and far more subtle. Like the weather forecast may say today morning it is going to rain. And we go out, there is no rain at all. So even with the most sophisticated devices, weather forecast may not be always accurate. So like that, it is complex and it is primarily meant to be interpretive. It is interpretive, interpretation that we make. It is not predictive. Although most people use it for prediction, the predictive aspect is only one part of astrology. So first of all, it is complex. Secondly, it depends on the competence of the astrologer. That how competent is the astrologer to read and understand the parameters. And like if you go to 10 different astrologers, 10 people may send 10 different things. And it's like, how many astrologers are there in this world? Well, there are as many astrologers as there are options for people. The whatever you want to do, if some two people want to get married, one astrologer may say, no, yours is not compatible. Second astrologer may say, you're not compatible. You can keep going to astrologer till they find one astrologer who says you can get married. Now, two people want to get separated. Most astrologers say, no, you should not separate. But they can keep finding an astrologer till one astrologer says, hey, you should get separated immediately. So what happens is, the biggest danger in astrology is the outsourcing of decision making. That should never happen. See, astrology, it should be a resource, not something which we outsource. What do I mean by resource and outsource? Outsource means, you take the decision for me. Whatever you tell, I will do. No. Astrology, we can use it as one resource for decision making. Ultimately, it is our responsibility. It is our decision to make. Like say, the weather forecast may say, there's a big storm out there. But say, if our child is in school and child is alone, say, no matter how storm is there, I'm going to go out there. This is important for me. Now, if we're just going for some casual shopping which cannot be done later, we say, I don't want to go now. So, the weather forecast does not take our decisions. It is one input that we take based on which we make a decision. For us, when we decide whether to go out or not, there are other parameters in our life. So the big danger in astrology is that people who start consulting astrology, they outsource the decisions to the astrologer. And then that actually paralyzes their capacity to make decisions. See, even when Krishna is with Arjuna, Krishna does not expect Arjuna to outsource his decision-making capacity. See, what happens is, if you consider, Arjuna says, Karishye vachanam tava. But it is not that in the subsequent Kurukshetra war, Arjuna is constantly turning to Krishna. Should I do this? Should I shoot this arrow? Should I shoot this arrow? Should I shoot this arrow? No. Arjuna is his own person making his decisions. Major decisions he consults Krishna. And later on, if we see when Ashwatthama does something terrible and Ashwatthama is to be punished. So Bhima has the opinion we should kill him, Yudhishthira has the opinion we should not kill him. And Arjuna has to make a decision. Krishna is right next to Arjuna, but Krishna does not give the decision to Arjuna. It is Arjuna who uses his buddhi and he makes a decision that Krishna is pleased with. So actually, the whole purpose of the Bhagavad Gita is to make us better at making decisions. It is not, we shouldn't outsource our decision making even to God. Then what to speak of to an astrologer? So that is the big danger in astrology. So in the chain of causes, to conclude this answer, the same principle applies to astrologers and also to Vastu. And there could be many other things. There are some Siddha Baba and this and that, and people pray to that. And so there is much in the universe that we can't understand. And it is possible that for some people, doing something may solve their problems. But the thing is that it is when we are facing a problem. So there is a drushta cause, there is an adrushta cause. There is something we can understand, something which you can't understand. So it is for us to use our intelligence to evaluate, okay, what is causing this and what can I do about this? So based on that, if we want to consider astrology as one resource, then that is up to us. It is. I know many devotees, especially use astrology in marrying. So I know one devotee, a very, very sincere, dedicated devotee. His daughter got married, and his dad, astrologer said, two, three astrologers said that this is such a compatible match. He says, like it's like once in 100 years that an astrologer gets to see so much compatibility. And what happened is, after 6 months, they just couldn't live together. They tried everything and it just couldn't. The marriage just broke down. Now, I'm not saying astrologers are bad, but the fact is life is complicated and we can't outsource decision making to astrologers. And there are other cases where astrologers said that, if these two get married, the husband will die. And they still got married and both of them are alive and healthy. So I'm not saying reject astrology. All that I'm saying is don't outsource decision making to astrology. Now, for example, getting married is a complex, it's one of the biggest decisions we make in our lives. So we could, if some people want, they can take that as one input. But don't let that become the sole basis of the decision making. Don't outsource the decision making there. So if we have children, if we want to know, okay, what is the broad nature of my child? That okay, what are the characteristics, what are the likely interests? If this child has this particular planet higher, then more likely to be artistic, more likely to be linguistic, more likely to be mathematically interested or whatever. So that some understanding we can get. But that does not mean if astrology says, okay, your child will be artistic, but a child has no interest in art, we force the child to practice art. No, take that as one resource. Don't make it the sole source of our decision making. Okay? So, I think already gone over time. There's one last question. Should we take that up? Okay. So there's a question about when we practice bhakti, what happens to the subtle body? How can we dissolve the subtle body? So basically, the soul is there. Around the soul, there's a subtle body. Around that is the gross body. So for us, when we die, the subtle body goes with the soul. Here in the question it is said, the subtle body carries the soul. I don't think subtle body carries the soul. It is like the subtle body is basically our mind, intelligence, ego. So imagine somebody is watching TV and they're so caught in watching some program on TV that a thief comes in their home. They don't even notice the thief. And a thief comes and picks up the TV. And the thief is taking away the TV and the person follows and keeps watching the TV. So, for the Yamadutas, they cannot actually touch the soul. The soul is achala. Hmm? So when the yamapasha, that it actually catches the subtle body. And the subtle body is pulled. And the soul is so attached to subtle body, so subtle body is like the TV. And the soul is like the person watching the TV. So there, Yamadutas catch the subtle body, they take the subtle body, and the soul goes with it. Hmm. So our attachment to our subtle body is far greater than our attachment to our gross body also. But the subtle body has many things, but for simplicity, let's consider that it's the mind. Hmm. So the mind is a programmed machine. But thankfully for it is programmed, it is also programmable. Hmm. Programmable means that we can change the samskaras in the mind. So when we practice bhakti repeatedly, what happens by that? Two things. First is that bhakti, it changes our mind. What does that mean? The conditioning, the programming changes. Say, for example, for somebody, initially, whenever I am stressed, I want to watch TV. Okay, that's my go to way of coping with stress. But if we come to Kirtan, we participate in Kirtan regularly, then slowly that samskar is created. So, whenever I feel stressed, let me hear some Kirtan, let me sing some Kirtan. So what has happened is the mind has changed. Initially, as soon as stress is there, something from within the mind says, come on, watch some TV, go on social media, do this, do that. But then, with habit, abhyasa and vairagya. So the urge to watch TV comes, vairagya. Abhyasa, keep doing, keep hearing kirtan, gradually the mind will change. So that is, change our mind is one thing. The second is, it changes our relationship with our mind. That means, initially when we are very attached, we identify very strongly with the mind. But then, changes our relationship with our mind means, we start understanding, I am not my mind is a part of me. And it is different from me. So what happens? When we change our mind, by that we start making better choices. But as we change our relationship with our mind, we become more ready to let go of the mind itself. So going back to the TV example, say initially somebody is very attached to the TV. But then, maybe somebody can change the programming in the TV so that, we don't get all kinds of nasty, obscene channels. We get only good channels over there. So that is the first change. So although I am still watching the TV, but my TV itself is giving me good options. But after that, so we change our TV and then we change our relationship with our TV. Okay, every time when I am bored, I don't have to watch TV. I can do other things also. So initially we let go of the mind's wrong options, mind's wrong suggestions, mind's bad suggestions. But eventually we let go of the mind itself. So first, when the TV gives us unhealthy options, we say no, I'll look only at healthy options. Good things on TV. But eventually there's no need for the TV only. So when these two things happen, first and second, this is the stage where we become ready for the spiritual world. When we are ready to let go of the mind itself. So when the soul no longer desires to enjoy even the good things in this world, that's when we become ready to go to the spiritual world. And as long as we are in the world, we will need the mind. Even a pure devotee has the mind. Just as the pure devotee has a physical body, they also have a subtle mind. But just as the physical body is being used for Krishna's service, even the subtle mind is being used for Krishna's service. And the physical body is left at the time of death, but the subtle body is left when the soul goes through the material existence, and it goes through the various layers in material existence. So when the soul goes through the Brahmanda, in the Brahmanda there is the earth layer, there is the water layer, like that the mind layer is there. So our individual mind gets merged with the subtle mind. Our individual intelligence gets merged with the individual ego. Our individual, our individual intelligence gets merged with the individual intelligence, with the universal intelligence. So it's like the soul is here, and in the universe, there are many different layers. The Brahmanda has many different layers. So if this is the layer of the mind, so you can say this is the universal layer of the mind. And as we are going through here, so here we may have the layer of the mind, but when we come here, this layer of the mind gets merged. And the soul goes free to the spiritual world. That's how we dissolve the subtle body. So thank you very much for your very thoughtful questions. Hare Krishna. So tomorrow I'll cover the last 4 characteristics of bhakti, and then we'll conclude this series. Shri Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Itai Gaur Premanande.
Krishna. So we are continuing, so we are grateful to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. So today he gave us so much clarity on